Creating Your First Art Book, Part 5, Marketing Your Work. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that marketing wasn't really my strong suit, right? However, I still had to do it. I still had to figure it out. I still had to see what I could do strategically on my own platforms to get people to know that this thing existed and how to incentivize them to buy it, right? First things first that I had to figure out was how to beat the algorithm. And obviously the most obvious way into this was paying for marketing, right? With Meta, that's usually the way that you do it, right? But I had a catch. I had already invested X amount of money in self-publishing. I didn't crowdsource this, remember? So I knew already I was at the top end of my budget. I figured I would borrow from strategies that I've learned from other projects and people to hopefully come up with a marketing scheme that best, grabbed my audience to invest in this book. First of all, you have to think long term. So I mentioned in the previous part, when it came to the process, you document everything. You've also got to start drip feeding that all along the way. And I've been doing that over the last couple of years into the project, starting YouTube and doing these different vlogs, sharing reels, sharing posts. You have to be very open about your process to kind of start to build some sort of hype so that people know that it exists. But still, at the end of the day, it was a bit of a balancing act, to determine, how much was too much to show. The other thing I did was I started a newsletter, very humble beginnings with that as well. I mean, I already had a website. I figured, why not set up a newsletter, starting this about probably maybe like a year prior launching the book to see if I can start generating momentum within that as well. So I'm not, succumbing to the mercy of the algorithm. When you're on the website, as a sort of like a nice little marketing hook, I put a timer on the top, and the date was honestly kind of arbitrary. But my goal was to create a sense of urgency of as people kept going back to the site to see if it was available, what have you, there would be this ticking timer, which basically indicates whether or not the product sold out or not, it will not be available after a certain date. And I think that sense of urgency with this sort of doomsday clock hanging above the website, that I think played a big part in the book sort of selling out. At the end of the day, I think what's most important is being consistent, but not just consistent for the sake of posting. You also have to be strategic about, when your audience is most active, the type of material that you're sharing as well. Being one and done with your posts is not the way. You have to, have a certain schedule, a certain timeline, and an approach to how you wanted to promote this.